March 1943. Admiral Karl Dönitz sits across from Adolf Hitler in the Wolf's Lair, holding a single sheet of paper. The numbers on it represent the monthly tonnage calculations for the Battle of the Atlantic, the mathematical equation that will determine whether Germany can starve Britain into submission. Dönitz has run these calculations dozens of times, checking and rechecking because the conclusion they point to seems impossible. His U-boats are sinking Allied ships at a rate never before achieved in naval warfare, and Germany is still losing the tonnage war. Hitler takes the paper, scans the figures, then looks up with the expression Dönitz has learned to dread. Not anger, not concern, but dismissal. The look that says the numbers themselves must be wrong, because they contradict what Hitler knows to be true about the world. These American production figures, Hitler says, tapping the paper, they cannot be accurate. The number Hitler is questioning is simple enough. American shipyards are launching 3 merchant vessels every single day. Not per week, per day. The intelligence reports say Henry Kaiser's yards in California can now complete a 10,000-ton Liberty ship in 42 days on average. One yard in Richmond, California, built a complete ship in 4 days and 15 hours as a demonstration. 4 days to build a ship larger than most German destroyers. Dönitz has brought documentation, photographs from agents, intercepted production schedules, reports from the Abwehr confirming the numbers through multiple independent sources. He spreads them across Hitler's desk, but he can already see it won't matter. Hitler is shaking his head before he even looks at the evidence. The Americans are incapable of this level of organization, Hitler says. Their society is mongrelized. The Jews control their industry, and Jews cannot build. They can only corrupt and destroy. He pushes the photographs back toward Dönitz. These figures are propaganda, deception. They want us to believe they are stronger than they are. Dönitz, who has spent his entire career in the Kriegsmarine studying tonnage calculations and naval logistics, who understands that submarine warfare is ultimately a mathematical equation of sinking rates versus replacement rates, tries a different approach. He pulls out the U-boat loss reports. In February, Germany lost 19 U-boats. In the first 3 weeks of March, 12 more. The rate is accelerating. The enemy has new tactics, Dönitz explains. Escort carriers, long-range aircraft, improved radar, but even accounting for our losses, my U-boat sank 63 Allied ships in February alone, over 300,000 tons, and yet... He pauses, making sure Hitler is listening. And yet the total Allied tonnage afloat is increasing, not decreasing. This is the impossible equation. The U-boats are winning every tactical engagement. They are sinking ships faster than at any point in the war. The crews are performing magnificently, hunting in wolf packs, coordinating attacks, pressing home their assaults with suicidal bravery. And the overall strategic situation is deteriorating because the Americans are simply building ships faster than Germany can sink them. Hitler stands, walks to the map on the wall showing the Atlantic convoy routes. Then we sink more ships, he says, as if it's that simple. You will receive more U-boats. Production is increasing. By summer, you will have 400 boats operational. Dönitz has heard this promise before. The production figures for U-boats are real enough, though constantly delayed by Allied bombing and material shortages. But even 400 U-boats cannot sink ships faster than American yards can build them. The math doesn't work. He tries to explain this, tries to walk Hitler through the calculations, but Hitler cuts him off. The American worker is lazy, Hitler says. He is soft. He has been corrupted by democracy and Jewish influence. He cannot sustain this level of production. It is a temporary surge, propaganda for their newspapers. It will collapse. He returns to his desk, picks up another report. The meeting is over. The numbers have been dismissed. Reality itself has been rejected because it contradicts ideology. Dönitz leaves the wolf's lair with his papers and his calculations, and the growing certainty that Germany is going to lose the Battle of the Atlantic, not because of any tactical failure, but because Hitler cannot accept that his fundamental assumptions about the world are wrong. The story of how Hitler came to this moment of denial begins 2 years earlier, in January 1942, when those assumptions still seem to be proving themselves correct. Operation Drumbeat, the second happy time. 6 U-boats arrive off the American East Coast and find a target-rich environment beyond the wildest fantasies of German naval planning. American cities blaze with lights at night, silhouetting merchant ships perfectly against the shore. Ships sail alone, without escorts, without convoys, broadcasting their positions in plain language over commercial radio frequencies. The U-boat commanders feel like they've been transported to a shooting gallery where the targets are illuminated and the operators have gone home. Kapitän Leutnant Reinhard Hardigan in U-123 sinks 9 ships in his first patrol, including tankers that explode in fireballs visible from shore. Kapitän Leutnant Richard Zapp in U-66 sinks 8 ships. The other 4 boats add another 20 vessels to the tally. In January 1942 alone, German U-boats sink 62 Allied ships off the American coast, totaling over 300,000 tons. In February, the number climbs to 73 ships. In March, 95 ships. The reports that reach Hitler's desk are intoxicating. Photographs show burning tankers lighting up the night sky. Tonnage figures climb into the millions. U-boat crews return to their bases in France as heroes, wearing white caps that signify ships sunk, receiving medals and praise and promises of more boats, more targets, more victories. The propaganda machine celebrates each sinking, each tonnage milestone, each confirmation that German technical superiority and Aryan fighting spirit are crushing the mongrelized Americans. Hitler reads these reports with satisfaction. They confirm everything he believes about the United States. The Americans are weak. Their democracy makes them indecisive. Their mixed-race society cannot organize effectively. Their Jewish-controlled industry produces inferior equipment. Their workers are soft, corrupted by comfort and materialism. Germany's lean, hungry, racially pure warriors are naturally superior, and the tonnage figures prove it. Dönitz, reading the same reports, sees something different. He sees the tactical success, but also the strategic vulnerability. Yes, the U-boats are sinking ships at an unprecedented rate, but the Americans are also learning. By April, coastal cities begin dimming their lights. Ships start sailing in convoys. Escorts appear, primitive at first, but increasing in number. The easy targets disappear. The sinking rates, while still impressive, begin requiring more effort, more risk, more time. And Dönitz sees something else in the intelligence reports, something that troubles him more than the improved American defenses. He sees the production figures from American shipyards, and unlike Hitler, he believes them. The Liberty ship program begins in 1941 as an emergency measure. Britain is hemorrhaging tonnage to U-boats. The Royal Navy's shipyards cannot replace losses fast enough. The Americans, not yet in the war but supporting Britain through Lend-Lease, need to find a way to build merchant ships in unprecedented numbers. The solution is a man named Henry Kaiser, an industrialist who has never built a ship in his life. Kaiser's background is in construction. He built dams, highways, bridges. He knows nothing about shipbuilding traditions or naval architecture, or the centuries-old craft of building vessels. This turns out to be an advantage. He looks at shipbuilding the way he looked at building the Hoover Dam, as an industrial engineering problem that can be solved through mass production, standardization, and assembly line techniques. The Liberty ship design is deliberately simple. A basic cargo vessel, no frills, no innovations, just a steel box that can carry 10,000 tons of cargo across the Atlantic and maybe survive one voyage, possibly 2. The British provide the initial design, based on an old tramp steamer. Kaiser's engineers simplify it further, breaking down the construction into prefabricated sections that can be welded together rather than riveted, using semi-skilled workers rather than traditional shipwrights. The first Liberty ship, the SS Patrick Henry, launches in September 1941. It takes 244 days to build. This is already faster than traditional construction, but nowhere near fast enough. Kaiser knows he needs to build ships in weeks, not months. He needs to build them faster than Germany can sink them. He needs to turn shipbuilding into an assembly line. The breakthrough comes from thinking about ships not as singular craft, carefully constructed by artisans, but as products manufactured from standardized components. Kaiser's yards begin prefabricating entire sections of ships in factories away from the waterfront. Bow sections, stern sections, hull sections, deck sections, all built to exact specifications, all interchangeable. Workers in these factories, many of them women who have never seen a ship, become specialists in welding specific joints, installing specific components, repeating the same tasks over and over until they can do them with speed and precision. The sections arrive at the shipyard already complete. The keel is laid, and within days, huge cranes are lowering prefabricated sections into place. Welders swarm over the joints. Electricians and pipe fitters, working from standardized plans, install systems that are identical in every Liberty ship, so they can work quickly without having to figure out custom solutions. The ship grows not like a traditional vessel, built up slowly from the keel, but like a building assembled from prefabricated components. By early 1942, Kaiser's Richmond yards are completing Liberty ships in 105 days. By summer, 60 days. By November, the average is 42 days, and one ship, the Robert E. Peary, is built in 4 days and 15 hours as a publicity demonstration. Photographs of the Peary's construction reach German intelligence services. They show a ship going from keel laying to launch in less than a week. The Abwehr analysts who see these photographs assume they must be propaganda, some kind of trick photography or staged demonstration that doesn't represent actual production capability. They forward the photographs to Berlin with notes expressing skepticism. The images reach Hitler's desk along with intelligence estimates of American production. The estimates say American yards are now launching 3 merchant ships per day. Hitler reads this, laughs, and tells his staff that the Americans are lying to themselves, inflating their own propaganda, trying to intimidate Germany with impossible numbers. But the numbers are not impossible. They are real, and they are accelerating. By 1943, 18 American shipyards are building Liberty ships. Kaiser's Richmond facility alone has 4 shipways operating simultaneously. Each way is producing 1 ship approximately every 6 weeks. Multiply that across all 18 yards, add in the other merchant ship programs running in parallel, and the production rate reaches levels that seem to violate common sense. 3 ships per day, 90 ships per month, over 1,000 ships per year, each ship 10,000 tons. 10 million tons of new merchant shipping annually, more than the entire German merchant fleet at the start of the war, produced in a single year by a single country, while simultaneously building hundreds of warships and thousands of aircraft. The German intelligence services, receiving reports from multiple sources, from agents in America, from neutral observers, from intercepted communications, compile these figures into reports that land on desks throughout the German military hierarchy. Kriegsmarine analysts look at the numbers and feel a cold certainty settling into their stomachs. The tonnage war is lost. No matter how many ships the U-boats sink, American production will replace them faster. The mathematics are simple and brutal. These reports reach Hitler, and Hitler rejects them. Not just the conclusions, the facts themselves. The production figures must be wrong because they contradict what Hitler knows about racial capacity. Americans, with their mixed population, their democratic chaos, their Jewish-influenced culture, cannot possibly organize production on this scale. The very idea violates Hitler's understanding of how the world works. In meeting after meeting, Hitler dismisses the intelligence reports. When shown photographs of American shipyards, he says they are fabrications. When presented with agent reports confirming the production numbers, he says the agents have been deceived. When Dönitz brings calculations showing that U-boat sinking rates cannot match American replacement rates, Hitler says the calculations must be wrong because the premise is impossible. This is not stupidity. Hitler is not an unintelligent man. He has demonstrated strategic insight, tactical creativity, and a sophisticated understanding of political psychology. But his entire worldview rests on certain assumptions about racial capacity, about the superiority of German organization, about the weakness of democratic societies. If American industry can outproduce German industry by a factor of 10 or 20, then those assumptions are wrong. And if those assumptions are wrong, then everything Hitler has built, everything he has told the German people, everything he believes about the world, collapses. So he rejects the evidence. He has to. Accepting it would mean accepting that he has led Germany into a war it cannot win, that his racial theories are false, that his understanding of history and society and human capability is fundamentally flawed. The psychological cost of that acceptance is too high. It is easier to believe that the intelligence is wrong, that the photographs are faked, that the numbers are propaganda. The German military leadership, watching this denial, splits into factions. Some, like Dönitz, understand the reality and try desperately to make Hitler see it, hoping that if the Führer understands the true situation, he will find some strategic solution, some way to adapt. Others, like Hermann Göring, enable the denial, providing Hitler with alternative explanations that confirm his biases, telling him what he wants to hear. Göring, in particular, reinforces Hitler's dismissal of American capability. The Reichsmarshal, who has never visited America, who knows nothing about American industry, assures Hitler that American production figures are inflated, that American workers are lazy, that American equipment is inferior. He points to early American tanks and aircraft, which were indeed inferior to German designs, and says this proves American industrial weakness. He ignores the fact that American designs are improving rapidly, that American production is learning and adapting, that quantity itself has a quality all its own. Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister, sees the truth more clearly. Speer has actually studied American industrial methods. He understands mass production, standardization, the power of assembly line manufacturing. He knows that American industrial capacity is real and growing. In his memoirs, written after the war, Speer describes multiple instances where he tried to make Hitler understand the scale of American production, only to be dismissed or ignored. In one meeting, Speer brings detailed reports on American aircraft production. The numbers show America building 4,000 aircraft per month, more than Germany's total annual production. Hitler refuses to believe it. He says the numbers must include training aircraft, or gliders, or civilian planes being counted as military production. Speer explains that these are combat aircraft only, that the production numbers have been verified through multiple sources. Hitler shakes his head and says the Americans are lying to themselves. The denial extends beyond just production figures. Hitler rejects intelligence about American military capability, American tactical innovation, American logistical sophistication. Each piece of evidence that contradicts his assumptions is dismissed as propaganda or deception. The alternative, accepting that he has fundamentally misunderstood America's capacity, is psychologically impossible. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic, the tonnage war turns against Germany with mathematical inevitability. May 1943. Black May. In a single month, Allied forces sink 43 U-boats. The convoy system, improved radar, escort carriers, long-range aircraft, coordinated tactics, all combined to turn the hunter into the hunted. Dönitz, watching his casualty reports climb, realizes that the U-boat force is being destroyed faster than it can be replaced. He makes the agonizing decision to withdraw U-boats from the North Atlantic convoy routes, effectively conceding defeat in the Battle of the Atlantic. The report reaches Hitler's desk. Dönitz has written it carefully, explaining the tactical situation, the improved Allied defenses, the unsustainable loss rates. He does not emphasize the American production numbers, knowing Hitler will reject them. Instead, he focuses on the immediate tactical crisis and requests permission to temporarily withdraw U-boats to regroup and retrain. Hitler grants permission, but with a warning. This is temporary. The U-boat offensive will resume. New technologies are coming, new tactics, new boats. The Type 21 U-boat, with its improved underwater speed and endurance, will restore German superiority. The tonnage war will be won. Dönitz, reading Hitler's response, understands that the Führer still does not grasp the fundamental reality. It doesn't matter if Germany builds better U-boats. It doesn't matter if German tactics improve. The Americans are building ships so fast that even if every U-boat sank a ship on every patrol, it wouldn't be enough. The industrial capacity gap is too large. The war is already lost. Mathematically, inevitably, but Hitler cannot accept this because it would mean his worldview is wrong. The psychological mechanism of Hitler's denial is not unique to him. It is a human response to information that threatens core beliefs. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort of holding contradictory ideas simultaneously. The mind resolves this discomfort by rejecting the contradicting information, by finding reasons to dismiss evidence, by clinging to beliefs even when reality demonstrates they are false. Hitler's entire identity is built on his racial theories, his understanding of history as racial struggle, his belief in German superiority and Jewish corruption. If American industry, with its mixed workforce, its democratic organization, its capitalist efficiency, can vastly outproduce German industry, then those theories are wrong. And if those theories are wrong, then Hitler himself is wrong, his life's work is wrong, everything he has done is based on false premises. The psychological cost of accepting this is total ego destruction. So Hitler's mind protects itself by rejecting the evidence. The intelligence reports must be wrong. The photographs must be faked. The numbers must be propaganda. Any explanation, no matter how implausible, is preferable to accepting that his fundamental understanding of the world is false. This denial has strategic consequences that ripple through the entire German war effort. Resources continue to be poured into the U-boat campaign long after it has become mathematically unwinnable. The Kriegsmarine builds hundreds of U-boats that will accomplish nothing strategically, using steel and skilled labor that could have been used for other purposes. Young men are trained as U-boat crews and sent into the Atlantic on missions that have no chance of affecting the war's outcome because Hitler cannot accept that the tonnage war is lost. The Type 21 U-boat program becomes a symbol of this denial. The Type 21 is genuinely innovative, with underwater performance far superior to earlier U-boats. If it had entered service in 1942, it might have changed the Battle of the Atlantic. But by the time production begins in earnest in late 1943, the strategic situation has already shifted. American shipyards are now building escort carriers faster than Germany can build U-boats. American aircraft production has reached levels where long-range patrol planes can cover the entire Atlantic. American industrial capacity has created a situation where German innovation cannot overcome American mass production. But Hitler orders full-speed production of Type 21 boats, convinced that this technological edge will restore German superiority. He rejects reports showing that American anti-submarine warfare is improving faster than German U-boat technology. He dismisses calculations showing that even if every type WWII sinks multiple ships, it won't affect the overall tonnage balance. The numbers are rejected because they contradict the belief that German technical superiority must ultimately triumph. By 1944, the delusion becomes impossible to maintain even for Hitler's most devoted followers. American merchant shipping tonnage is now higher than it was before the war began. Despite years of U-boat warfare, despite hundreds of thousands of tons sunk, the Americans have not only replaced their losses, but expanded their merchant fleet. The Liberty ships, those simple, mass-produced vessels that Hitler dismissed as propaganda, are crossing the Atlantic in vast convoys, carrying the supplies and equipment and troops that will invade France. The D-Day invasion, June 6, 1944, is only possible because of those Liberty ships. The invasion fleet includes over 5,000 vessels. The follow-up logistics require shipping hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies across the Channel daily. American production has created such a surplus of shipping capacity that the Allies can mount an amphibious invasion of unprecedented scale while simultaneously supplying forces in Italy, maintaining convoys to the Soviet Union, and conducting operations in the Pacific. Hitler, watching the invasion unfold, still cannot accept the industrial reality that made it possible. In meetings with his generals, he speaks of cutting the invasion supply lines, of U-boats sinking the merchant ships, of destroying the Allied logistics. His staff, who have learned not to contradict him directly, make plans knowing that the U-boat force no longer has the capacity to affect the invasion supply lines. The Americans are simply bringing too much, too fast, carried on too many ships. The final collapse of Hitler's denial comes not through acceptance, but through irrelevance. By late 1944, Germany is being crushed from all sides. The Eastern Front is collapsing. The Western Front is being pushed back into Germany itself. Allied bombers are destroying German cities and industry. The question of merchant shipping tonnage becomes academic because Germany no longer controls enough of the Atlantic to threaten Allied convoys. In the final months of the war, Hitler retreats into fantasy, speaking of wonder weapons and miracle victories, of armies that no longer exist and production that has already been destroyed. The denial that began with rejecting American shipbuilding numbers has expanded to encompass all of reality. Rather than accept that his assumptions were wrong, that his racial theories were false, that his understanding of industrial capacity was flawed, Hitler chooses to deny reality itself until reality destroys him. The Liberty ships, those simple, mass-produced vessels that Hitler insisted could not exist in the numbers reported, continue sailing long after Germany's surrender. Many serve for decades, carrying cargo in peacetime, proving that American industrial capacity was not propaganda, but reality. The final Liberty ship is not scrapped until 2009, a physical reminder that the industrial might Hitler could not accept was real, measurable, and ultimately decisive. The story of Hitler's denial of American shipbuilding is not just about one man's psychological limitations. It is about the danger of ideology overriding evidence, of belief systems that cannot accommodate contradictory information, of leaders who reject reality because accepting it would require acknowledging they were wrong. Dönitz, who survived the war and was imprisoned for war crimes, wrote in his memoirs about his frustration trying to make Hitler understand the tonnage calculations. He described bringing the numbers, showing the evidence, explaining the mathematics, and watching Hitler dismiss it all because it contradicted his assumptions about American capacity. Dönitz understood that the Battle of the Atlantic was lost not because of any tactical failure, but because Germany's leadership could not accept that their fundamental assumptions about the enemy were wrong. The U-boat crews who went to sea in those final years, knowing the odds were against them, fighting with courage and skill against an enemy that could replace losses faster than Germany could inflict them, were victims of that denial. They died because Hitler could not accept that American workers, including women and minorities, could organize production on a scale that German industry could not match. They died because ideology trumped reality in the mind of Germany's leader. The lesson extends beyond World War II. Throughout history, leaders and nations have fallen into the trap of rejecting evidence that contradicts core beliefs. The assumption that the enemy is weak, that one's own system is superior, that the other side is lying about their capabilities. These assumptions are comfortable. They confirm existing beliefs. They make the world make sense according to one's ideology. But reality does not care about ideology. American shipyards did not build ships slower because Hitler believed they could not build them fast. The Liberty ships launched at a rate of 3 per day, regardless of whether Hitler accepted the production figures. The tonnage war was lost because mathematics is indifferent to belief, because industrial capacity is measurable and real, because the world operates according to facts rather than assumptions. Hitler, standing in his bunker in April 1945, surrounded by maps showing a Germany that no longer exists, still could not accept that his fundamental understanding of the world was wrong. He blamed betrayal, conspiracy, the weakness of the German people, anything except his own flawed assumptions. The Liberty ships that had helped bring about his defeat were still in his mind impossible. The American production that had overwhelmed German industry was still somehow propaganda and deception. He died believing his own lies, unable to accept that reality had proven him wrong. The ships continued sailing, physical proof that truth exists independent of belief, that industrial capacity is not determined by racial theory, that the world operates according to facts rather than ideology. The Americans did build ships faster than Germany could sink them. The numbers were real, the production was real, the defeat was real, and Hitler never accepted any of it.